This is Economy Watch, what you need to know about New Zealand's economic life today. Brought to you by interest.co.nz.
Kia ora, and welcome to Thursday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect Aotearoa. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz. And today we lead with news that while the world's politics are getting messier and more partisan, the world's big economies are basically doing okay. But first up today, the US Fed released the minutes of its June 13 meeting, and those show it is in no hurry to cut its policy rate. But they do seem to be on alert for signs of labour market deterioration. US mortgage applications fell 2.5% last week from the week before, to be 12% lower than last year's week level. The benchmark 30-year mortgage rate blipped over 7% again, which won't have helped. So no signs of the hibernating American housing market is waking up yet. Reports of job layoffs among major companies remained very low in June, and they noted strong hiring in the month. But the precursor ADP employment report for June said the American private sector added only 150,000 new jobs in the month, less than the 160,000 expected. Analysts now expect the June non-farm payrolls to have expanded by 190,000, and we get that data on Saturday New Zealand time. There was a minor uptick in the weekly initial jobless claims last week, taking them to 238,000 and lifting the number of people on these benefits to 1.8 million. But that is still well below where they started the year. US exports of goods and services dipped slightly in May from April, but remained 4.3% higher than the same month a year ago. The overall trade deficit was about $9 billion more on that basis, insignificant for an economy as large as theirs. In something of a surprise, the widely watched local ISM Services PMI reported a contraction in June when a similar expansion to May was expected. This was suddenly its worst result since 2020. This garnered headlines. But the internationally benchmarked S&P Global Market version did report the rising expansion and at its fastest pace in a year. Again, take your pick. Their May report for new factory orders revealed a small retreat from the prior month after a similar rise in April. Year on year, they remain almost 1% higher, however. In India, their service sector is on a real spurt higher. Sharp rises in sales and business activity were the main feature in June. International orders increased at a record pace, and they had their fastest upturn in employment for 22 months. But that is in sharp contrast to China. Although its June factory PMI was stronger than the official NBS version, the Caixin Services PMI was weaker, and by quite a bit. But at least it is still expanding, although the rate is at its slowest pace since October 2023. And it is little different in Japan. Their service sector stalled in June, according to their latest PMI data. The volume of new business was broadly unchanged from May. In Europe, perhaps we should note that Greece is introducing a 6-day, 48-hour working week for some industries, but it only applies to businesses which operate on a 24-hour basis and is optional for workers. Meanwhile, Australian retail sales in May rose far less than inflation, a situation they've had for a long time now, since the beginning of 2023. What improvements there are coming from chasing bargains. There was a small rise in May for dwelling building permits in Australia, and a helicopter view of these trends suggests they may have passed their trough. There were 2 PMIs out in Australia yesterday too. The internationally benchmarked market version shows their service sector growth was sustained in June. New business and activity both continued to rise, albeit at slower rates. But the AIG version for their factory sector isn't flash at all, even if it did improve from May. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now at 4.36% and down 7 basis points. And the price of gold will start today up $32 from yesterday at $2,356 an ounce. And oil prices a little changed from this time yesterday at just under $83 a barrel in the US, while the international Brent price is still at $86.50 a barrel. And perhaps we should note that ahead of the American summer driving season, petrol prices there are marginally less than they were this time a year ago. And the Kiwi dollar starts today a quarter cent firmer from yesterday and back up to 61 US cents. Against the Aussie, we're 20 basis points softer at 91 Australian cents. Against the euro, also holding at 56.6 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at 70.4 with a 10 basis point gain. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $60,198 and down 2.8% from this time yesterday. Volatility over the past 24 hours has been moderate, at plus or minus 2.2%. You can find links to the articles mentioned today in our show notes, and you can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again tomorrow.